Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Coach Adam's Bikini TV. Today we are going to go into my wellness top 5 Arnold prediction. Is it going to stay the same as the Olympia? Are things going to be huge mix-ups? Is Sonny Andrews going to get back in the mix? Let's check it out. So there's a lot of things to consider going from the Olympia to the Arnold. One, there's not a lot of time between the Olympia and the Arnold, about 10 weeks. So you're not going to see a lot of people making huge improvements and putting on X amount of muscle to pass the fellow competitor, because no one was really off that much at the Olympia other than Sonny. Sonny's going to be the one variable that was off at the Olympia who could leapfrog people and actually make improvements going from, her placing all the way to in the top 5. So that's the thing between, that's going to be the biggest factor between everything is everyone was on at the Olympia that's in this group that's there. Now, you don't have Francielle. You don't have Issa at this show, the defending champion. So that's going to create some serious room for people to move up the ranks, and we're going to have a new Miss International. What do you call it? Miss? Do they even call it Miss Wellness International for that? Or whatever. We're going to have a new Arnold Classic Wellness Champion. So I'm really excited to see who takes that spot. I did think that Angela was going. I did think that Issa was going to easily take this spot until we found out about her injury. So well wishes to her. I hope she gets better and is awesome at the Olympia and hopefully can get the crown next year at the Olympia. But let's go ahead and go into our top 5. And at 5th place, we have Marissa Andrews. And the reason I think Marissa Andrews is going to be taking up that 5th spot, well, one, as I said earlier, there is not a lot of time to make dramatic improvements from going from show to show. She was pretty on at the Olympia. There's not a whole lot of areas where she needs to make dramatic improvement. If you look at her conditioning in that back pose, she is pretty much pushing it to the limits in the hamstrings already. You can see there's some slight separation already happening in the hamstrings. You don't want to be overly separated and overly detailed there. The tie-in is fully etched in. You can see the adductors are fully there. You're seeing good detail in the rear delts. Everything is really where it needs to be in this back pose. There's not a whole lot of area where she's going to make these dramatic improvements. If I'm looking for any areas of improvements, would be a tiny bit more hamstring size, a tiny bit more in the rear delt, but nothing significant. There's not anything there where I'm like, it's so obvious that there needs to be these huge improvements. It's not like her conditioning is way off or anything like that. So in the back pose, I'm not seeing a whole lot of room for her to make those improvements in the 10-week period. If her conditioning was different, where I was like, hey, she was really off in her conditioning, she can make that big improvements for the Arnold. That's one thing, but it's really not there in the back pose. Now, we look at the front pose. I do think there's just a kiss more density, a kiss more hardness can be there. Not too much, though. We don't want to make her grainy and lose that pretty muscle look. But I do think when we look at her overall quad, we're not seeing a whole lot of detail in this front pose. We're not seeing a whole lot of detail in this front pose when you look at some of the other competitors. She just has just a tiniest bit of softness to her overall pose in the front, and I think that can be hardened up a bit, and that's going to be the only real area of improvement that she can make going from the Olympia to the Arnold. Again, muscle-wise, these are very advanced lifters. We're not going to see a dramatic amount of muscle built in a 10-week period. It's just not possible for someone who's as advanced as this. Now, I think that she's going to bring a similar look. Hopefully she brings a little bit of a harder look in. And she can climb up as high as I think 4th place. I think would be the highest that she's going to be in that realm. But who knows? Maybe she can end up with a 3rd. But right now, I have her in that 5th spot. And in 4th place, I think this is going to be the most controversial one. I think this is the one I'm going to get the most heat for, the most slack for sure. But hear it out and let's go from here. So in 4th place, I have none other than Sonny Andrews. And I'm sure a lot of you are saying, dude, what are you talking about? Sonny Andrews, she finished in the 16th place, the Sea of 16 at the Olympia. How would she make those improvements when you're saying no one can make those types of improvements from Olympia to the Arnold in that short of a time period? Well, remember, Sonny Andrews had she really didn't bring the best physique. She's brought pretty much the worst physique that she's ever brought to a stage when you look at her overall look. Now, what happened at the Olympia? There's been a lot of talk about it. She's done interviews about it. She said she was having some treatments done, which caused some flare up on her glutes, which made her glutes really overpower her overall physique. Here's the thing with wellness. You're not going to have balance from your upper to lower body. That's not a thing. You're going to be off balance. You're going to have a smaller upper body than you are lower body. That's the wellness division. But what you need to have is balance of the lower body. Everything here needs to be balanced. Your glutes need to balance out with your quads and your hamstrings. You can't have overpowering glutes. And this really looked, it just looked really unnatural. It didn't look, it looked, people were like, oh, I think she got glute implants or anything like that. There's no way that she'd still be in this shape if she had glute implants. That's not possible in that time frame. She would have lost a bunch of muscle. She wouldn't have been able to train. She would have taken a year off or something like that, and then came back this way. This is obviously a mishap that happened with some treatments that she was getting or whatever she did to make that. But that is not something that was normal. I don't think it's a deep synthol or anything like that where it's not going to go away from the Olympia to the Arnold. I do believe it was just some type of flare-up that she had from what she was doing, getting the shot treatments that she was getting. So I think that is going to be fixed at this point, and it's going to be a totally different Sonny. This is not something that she didn't need to have any really bigger glutes. She already had awesome round glutes. She just needs to keep her balance there. And with this going down now, with these glutes going down, she's going to have a lot more balance in her lower body. And when we look at Marissa Andrews and we look at Sonny, when we talk about the overall hardness and that little kiss of detail, if you compare the two side by side, you could see what I'm talking about. Let's look at just the hardness and the detail of the shoulders. Let's look at the detail and the hardness of the core. You see there's just a little bit, just a kiss of softness to her oblique lines here. And you can see there's a significantly better in level of conditioning in Sonny's core. And then it really becomes obvious at the legs. Look at this quad. Now, obviously, they both have very impressive quads, very impressive size to their quads. But look at the detail of Sonny's quad versus Marissa's. There's a significant difference, and I think that's where she can make a big improvement, is coming in just a little bit harder and having that density and detail that Sonny has. So I think that's what's going to push Sonny over the top if her glutes come in correct at that point. I think that the judges are going to recognize, hey, they're going to look for that. That's going to be the first thing they look for when she comes out. Are her glutes the same? Are they overpowering, or did she correct that issue? And if she corrects that issue, I think that in this group, she's going to be able to take that fourth place spot, depending, of course, if Marissa brings in her conditioning just a little bit harder to match, of the other people. Because you got to remember who else is in this group. When we're talking about the people in this group, Cassandra's in there too, and she has crazy conditioning. She's going to be more along the lines of Sonny. So, that's something that we have to take into consider of who she's next to as well. And in third place, I have Rayanne. No surprise there. I think the order is going to be similar as in the Olympia of the remaining competitors at the Arnold. And that's where she finished in order at the Olympia. So looking at her overall look, she's just got an amazing look. There is not a whole lot of improvements here. Of course, she's one of the best in the world, so you would expect not to be a whole lot of improvements. There's a couple little things that I'd like to see on her overall physique, just some very minor changes for her. But and a couple presentation things too. One, I think the hair is just a little bit long and it's a little bit distracting. You see it's like on her shoulder, on her arm. I think that she can just, put that down the middle of her back, show those awesome shoulders that she has. And also it's like on her glutes too at the top. I think her hair being just a little bit shorter here and more down the middle of her back to show her amazing V-taper and her great shoulders would be great. She has one of the best V-tapers in the game when it comes to wellness. So I think that that's something that, not a lot of people are showing. Her hair is definitely blocking it. It's blocking those amazing shoulders that she has too. And then the other thing that I would like to see in terms of the overall physique, I do think her arms are getting a little bit jacked for wellness. They're just a little bit powerful, and I think that they need to come down just a hair for her to make a very slight improvement to her physique. But when we look at her physique, when we talk about her core, and we look at, again, comparison to Marissa and why I just wanted to say that out because a lot of people are going to be saying, I don't think Sonny's going to place higher. Well, that's the reason. It's going to be that conditioning. Look at her core conditioning, how tight it is, how she has that density and that hardness to her overall muscle, but she doesn't have that crazy, crazy detail in her legs. There's still detail there though. And that's the thing I think that Marissa was lacking. I think that there just needs to be a little bit more detail in those quads and in that back for her to be really there. The back was a little bit better, but I think that for her to move up, she's going to need to be a little bit tighter. But this is a perfect wellness conditioning here where it's not crazy, crazy striated. It's got a good kiss of muscle, but I think the thing that takes away from her is going to be just a little bit in the arms. And if she can bring those down just a hair, it's going to make a significant improvement for her in the wellness category. But everything else is there. Crazy glute fullness, full tie-ins, not any crazy separation in the hamstrings, great balance from the glutes to the hamstrings, to the quads, to the calves, all the way down. Great V-taper, awesome shoulders. And it's just the only thing that catches my eyes. I keep going to those arms. I keep going right to those arms. So that's really the only thing there. But I think she's going to finish with a great placing, a top 3, and there's nothing wrong with that. And in second place, no surprise, I have Cassandra. I think Cassandra looks absolutely amazing. There, again, another physique where there's not a whole lot of area of improvements to make. I'm really, really loving her overall conditioning from front to back. And one of the things that's just so impressive about her is just her quads from the back pose. Look at those sweeping, beautiful quads. I mean, just amazing roundness, great muscle bellies to those quads, especially at that lower quad part. I mean, no one has quads like that. It's just crazy that she's even made like this, you know? When you see her walking around, you're just like, how is she made like that? It's just an amazing look. Now, looking at her overall physique from the back pose, everything looks really good. I think that she could get just a tiny bit more detail on that glute, at the bottom of the glute in the tie-in. Maybe that could be something posing where she poses just a little bit harder to get that tie-in to show up just a little bit better, because everyone else is showing a fully etched tie-in, and she's got the conditioning where she could definitely be showing that full etched tie-in. I think just a hair more of a push. And again, all of these things for these competitors are like a hair more. You know, it's just a hair more this, a hair more that. It's not anything significant, and this could be potentially improved from the Olympia to the Arnold. She could just push a little harder. She could maybe come in just a tiny bit tighter in that area, and that would make a difference there, and just in that back pose. But that back pose is so impressive with those quads. It's just no one has quads like that. Now, looking at her overall presentation, I do think too on her overall hair, I think that could be a little bit cleaner, a little bit like less. You see, it looks like the oil got to her hair here, and it's kind of absorbed it and got a little stringy there, and all those curls are kind of separated. One thing that could be improved, little minor thing, probably just because she was backstage for so long, because there's just so many competitors there, is one of those things. At the Arnold, I think she'll be able to have more control of that, because the timing's going to be easier with being less competitors at the Arnold. But yeah, and a little bit more fullness to this overall back hair too, I think would be helpful. And again, hair off the shoulders. You know, get the hair off the shoulders and the lats, ladies. It's going to make a big improvement. And also, don't keep it so low on your lower back. Show that lower back. It's going to make your glutes look more 3D. Now, as far as everywhere else goes from the front, I would like to see just a hair more core detail. But it's really, really good. I mean, honestly, it just could be posing at this point. Nothing really changed. It could just be this pose in particular. But everything else looks really, really good on her. She could easily take this whole show. I think that the contest is definitely going to come down between her and Angela, and it's going to be a real throwdown for that show. So looking at Angela, what areas of improvement can she make? So there's a couple of things that she can really make improvements on that are easily correctable. So first off, on the overall presentation, she looks great. Hair looks awesome. There's no changes needed there. This is exactly what I was talking about. You could see both the shoulders. You could see the V taper. The hair is nice and put together, right? You're not seeing it all absorbed with the oil, things like that. So look for those things when you're competing, girls. All those things matter. Now, one of the things I do think that she can make improvements on is this suit itself. The suit, I don't think the cut of the suit is that great. I think it's a little bit too thin in this area. I think just a little bit of material would make her actually look harder. When you get the glutes kind of going around the suit, because it's such thin material, it makes your glutes look a little bit softer. Now, luckily she's in wellness and she could push really hard and she's got full tie-in, so you know it's not a conditioning, but that is definitely a suit issue. She could just fill this suit a little bit more in that area, and it's going to create some separation where it's going to make her look more conditioned. And I think that's just a half an inch maybe of material would be a world of difference. And the other thing too is this suit color, with having the yellow stones, it kind of comes off as orangey because it's yellow and red, and there might even be some orange in this suit. I'm not sure. It looks like it's red with red, white, and yellow stones. Yellow stones is not a great color for her. When you look at her hair, it's kind of got that yellow. It's obviously blonde, so it's got a yellow look to it. The tan is very orange and yellow. Then her suit is very red, orange, and yellow. And so I think that it blends a little bit too much. There's not enough contrast there in the suit tones. So I would just pick different gems, some gems that pop a little bit more for her crystalling of her suit. And I think that would be the area of improvement just on her presentation. And now looking at her overall physique, one of the things, if you notice, compared to the other girls, the detail in that front pose and that front quad, I think, can be improved. You know, when you look at that overall front quad, I think just a tiny bit of detail is helpful in selling your conditioning to the judges. And I think, you know, you don't want to have crazy deep separation, but you want to have a little bit of detail there in those legs. And I think that that's going to be the one way that Cassandra can potentially pass her is going to be that front pose. And she's going to get the judges are going to get a real look at those two because they're going to be comparing them. They're probably going to get called back for a top two. And will it be enough for Cassandra to take her? Angela's been close to getting the Arnold title before, and she hasn't gotten it yet. So I would love to see her get it. But I think it's going to be a tough contest. From the back, I don't think that she gets beat. From the front, I do think that she does, and it's going to be a front or back situation. So let's go ahead and do that comparison now. When we talk about the quads, when we look at just the quad area, you see the detail we're seeing here on Cassandra and we're not seeing on Angela. That's what I'm talking about, is the difference of that. What are the judges going to be looking for? Do they want to see a little bit of this quad detail. Now, a lot of times there's judges are saying, oh, I don't want to see the separation and detail, but they do want to see, they always award it just a little bit of detail there, right? And I think with all this muscle not showing any of that detail is something that could be easily corrected. I think she has the muscle. It's just going to be potentially in her pose or maybe in her conditioning of her legs. But that's going to be something that I know the judges are going to be looking at. In that front pose, I would give the front pose to Cassandra. In the back pose, I would give that back pose to Angela. So it's going to be, to me, it's a front and back competition. I'm excited to see how this one goes down. But that is my top 5. So who is your top 5 at the wellness? Do I have this way off? Am I crazy for thinking Sonny's going to be in there? Am I crazy for thinking Angela's going to win it? You tell me. Leave it in the comments below, your top 5. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. See you guys next time.